Let's see, this might be better. Nancy.
Hi.
That's the way it sounds. You hear me all right, Nancy?
You sound like you're underwater.
Oh dear. All right.
Is your volume up? Hi, Austin.
How are you, Nancy?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Is this any better, Nancy?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. Good. It's amazing what you can do if you just keep opening up menus and clicking on things.
Yeah, most of the time it's helpful. Sometimes it gets you in trouble, though.
Yeah, exactly, right. And the worst part is if you really screw it up and you have no idea how you got there.
Right.
No idea at all.
Oh, it was amazing. Ellen and I worked on the application, and
Yeah.
like she is so amazingly facile.
Oh yeah,
She's
I
just
bet.
flipping all over the place, and
I bet.
keep track of it. I was so jealous.
I know.
Sometimes I struggle and I get so angry, and
Yeah.
she just like
I know just how you feel. I've been working at home since COVID day one. And
like the radiologist,
I can show you what I've got here.
Like the radiologists in India, Paul?
No.
Oh, I mean, I used to work in ERs, and the radiologists, like I'd get a reading from somewhere across the other side of the world.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get my camera out here. Okay.
You're making us dizzy.
I've got quite an operation here. So
wow.
That's my personal stuff. Okay. And then this is all of.
Wow.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens, 2 computers, including one that's as big as a breadbasket, old style.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I think you probably know what you're doing.
Well, I know enough to do what I do, you know?
Yeah.
And I live in fear that the chairman's going to wake up one day and say, oh, that system, let's change it all around. You know, we call those systems PACS, picture archiving, something.
Yeah.
And there are about a half a dozen on the market, and they're all different. And, you know, if some glad-handing salesman comes in and sells our chair on something new, could change in a few months.
But I think the capability of reading remote X-rays is pretty like worldwide, all
Yeah.
over the place. So
Right.
that will stay.
Right. But it's a lot of little things. It's all of the mouse controls, manipulating
Uh-huh.
the images. All of that takes time. And if you have to think about it, it becomes really tedious.
Yeah.
And here's Madam Chair. Turn the lights on in your house, Lynn. It's dark out there.
My car.
Oh, you're in
So
your
I-
car. Oh my goodness.
No, I just pulled into Valley Road, so I'm just walking into my office. Just
Oh,
came down from Newcastle, Maine. So
Oh my gosh.
where's that?
just outside of Dharmascotta.
So I think you must be walking holding your phone out.
I am.
Please be
I'm
careful.
Well, yeah, if you saw me walking right now, that would be good advice.
You have
Oh,
a cane, Lynn?
No, I just hobble.
Yeah, you're listing from one side to the other, I can see.
Well, yeah, I twisted up my ankle.
Oh, jeez.
So
We're getting
yeah.
a tour of the Nahant Community Center here.
Yeah, see here. But you know what? You're going to have a tour of the elevator because I actually have been using the elevator.
Oh.
Isn't that nice? Are we the only two on this call?
No, we are four.
Oh, good.
And Ellen just
Austin is on the call. And he hasn't said anything, so you probably have it on speaker. Say something, Austin, and your face will pop up on Lynn's phone.
Oh. She's in the elevator.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh. And I think this must be Ellen.
See, I called this a contemplative ride.
And Kathleen Martin, who is our best community observer. And I don't know who Sylvia Chen is from the Item Live. She must be a reporter.
Okay, I'm going to get off of this now and get onto my other device. Okay, so I'll be with you in a second.
We'll be here.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, everybody.
So Nancy has told us what a whiz bang you are. Where's Ellen? There she is. What a whiz bang you are.
Really?
All things digital.
Yeah, that is my specialty.
Good. I'd love to take a tutorial with you.
Yeah, anytime, anything you need, no problem.
Well, it could be a excuse me, it could be a source, an income stream for you.
Yeah.
Leading the eco adults through or techno adults.
Well, it's always been a thing for me.
Great, that's wonderful.
So,
absolutely wonderful.
There's Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
All right, now can you hear me?
Yes,
We
very
can
good.
hear you.
I connected
We can see you.
correctly. Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
So I see that we have guests as well as 5 of us. So we have a quorum. Great. So let's call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Okay.
I have an agenda,
Okay.
but it's nothing more than just a copy of what we've essentially done in the past.
Right.
Dividing it into old business and new business. By the way, who is taking minutes, Lynn?
Who's taking minutes? That is the question. I had understood that this was being recorded. So
Yeah,
Christine could
Yes.
do the minutes.
it is.
Yeah.
All right. Just to be sure.
Hi, this is Tony. I'm calling in on my cell phone.
Hi,
Hi,
Tony, on
Tony.
your cell phone. I'm you, Tony, on this on this Zoom call. Okay.
Congratulations.
All right, I've made a distinguished improvement in my CV.
Okay, so in terms of calling this meeting to order, I'm Lynn Spencer, the chairman. With us today, let's just go through the roster of who's in the room. Paul?
Paul Spurn, I am a member at large.
Okay. Ellen?
Ellen Goldberg, member at large.
Nancy?
Nancy Cantelmo, representative from Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee.
Okay. And Austin?
Austin Antrim, member at large.
Okay. Do I have other committee members on this call? I see a phone here, phone number, but
Is that your phone, Tony? 5466?
That's me.
Okay.
okay. So that's Tony Barletta, the town administrator. Good. So for our meeting, that do we, I don't think we have any minutes.
No, we don't.
No, okay. Paul, we do need to sort of follow up on that with Kristen. So
I'm happy to do that. I don't want to upset the apple cart. So
Yep.
maybe you and I should confer about that.
let's do that. Let's do that. So in terms of tonight's agenda, this is a discussion about the status of our grant application, because we've got that process beginning. And I think that we have the benefit of some work that Nancy and Ellen have been doing on our grant application. So I'd like to turn this over to the two of them to review their suggestions.
Great. I have some notes I would like to just pull up.
Okay.
Sure. I have the two documents. You should be seeing them both side by side.
Okay.
But feel free. You want to share something? Go ahead. Unless you're just looking at them yourself.
Well, why don't we, Nancy, tell me what you think. Let's just go over briefly what we were asked to do. We'll go through the red lines and the grant guidelines as they stand right now with the proposals, and then we have some questions that we need to make some decisions on. So what we put forth is a proposal, right? It's just a proposal. It's nothing definite. We're bringing it to the group for discussion and decision.
Exactly.
So does that sound okay with you, Nancy, and of course everybody else?
Maybe we could just say our overall concept of separating out the the guidelines for submission as a separate document, and we've got some things to do that we've updated and improved on that. And then we also thought that it was a good idea if we just had one application and asked people to apply online with the online application. That's the way the world works. So taking the old one and submitting it doesn't seem to be the best way. And we've reformatted it, trying to use the numbers and everything from the old application. And this is how it comes out looking when you start working on it, not like what it looks like online with those like kind of gray spaces. So that was kind of our overall way we like to approach this.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Yeah,
let's go through it.
Yeah, exactly. So to recap, the proposal is to break out the guidelines as a separate document, make them available for people to download and use as a resource. And proposal number 2 is all applications must be submitted online only. And then we have some red lines that we went ahead and prepared here. And so what we did was we copied the form as it was on the website that Tony got his development team to put online for us last year. And then we compared it to the existing grant application as we have it now in the PDF and the Word doc that we had put into a fillable PDF over the past couple of years. So this is just the next iteration here. So we wanted to include numbers on the, just on the details on the, so we're just gonna go through the document on the right-hand side here is the one that we're gonna be looking at for right now. The one on the left is the grant guidelines. So the one on the right is the new proposed application. And these are just some notes. I know, Tony, you're not on the screen. I assume you're not on the screen, but we copied basically the form into a Word doc so that we could make red lines for the developers.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
so,
okay. I saw your email earlier and took a look at it. It looks good. So keep going.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So, you know, essentially some formatting cleanup. We want numbers on all of the things. It's very hard to see. We need to talk through how the forms get compiled and formatted. We had a proposal of taking the questions 1 through 4. Page 2 could be 5 through 8. Page 3 could be 9 through 12. And that way, every submission that we get is formatted exactly the same. As opposed to, and any attachments would go at the end, I'm assuming. However the developers think is the best way to make it happen. Require online submission and grant guidelines as a separate document. So scroll down, if you would, on that document, Paul. I just want to find where there are some changes. So, okay, so here, okay, so unless you want me to show no, just keep it on your screen. We're already here. So on number 6, valuation criteria, we're changing, you know, we just added in grant guidelines because that's the new document that we've created that has only the grant guidelines on it. Number 7, estimated cost and schedule. We asked them to attach a project budget. I think we changed that from cost estimate. We really want to, you know, we want the budget. So we just did a little bit of language change there. And we thought it would be useful to, as an applicant, from an applicant perspective, to be able to upload your budget right there as an attachment. So maybe the developers can add an attachment there. If they can, it can go at the end. Scroll down, and then, yeah, let's scroll down.
Further?
Yep, and let's see. So we've coordination.
Can I go back
copy
to
and paste all this stuff on here? Yeah, go back to the budget because I thought we're missing something in this document.
Yeah, so we thought that the grid that was available on the old document would be helpful. And
right, where is that?
Stuck in here, but we don't see where it is.
Right, must be on the old version that I have. I'm sorry. Attach a project budget. Yeah, we wanted the grid. So on the, it's not in there. It's in the old application. There is a grid that shows the fiscal year, the dollar amount, professional services, and we liked that format. So we wanted them to put the format of the existing grid and have people be able to fill in those numbers right here. For the budget.
I'm just looking at an old application and in hard copy, Ellen, so I can better understand exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up my old one as well. And what I don't understand is why the grid did not show up in those red lines that we just did, Nancy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cleanup that I was doing.
Ellen, you know, off to the side, it doesn't show.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think it got lost in translation, to be honest. I'm looking at some, yeah, that's what I think. Grant app guidelines. Let me take a look. I think it got lost in translation. I have the grid in front of me, and we had wanted to remove the column for stipend request. As we had a question on whether or not that was useful, and we looked at some old applications and really didn't understand what the stipend request meant, even though there is a guideline for it in the grant guidelines. It's like number 3 of the guidelines, but we found it to be confusing.
Yeah, I think, and I appreciate what you're saying as I'm looking at it. I happen to be looking at a well-prepared application by the Nahant Public Library as an example. And I think the stipend request is the grant request. How much are you asking for? Period. That's what the stipend is.
Oh, okay.
So the budget and the grant request are 2 different things, really.
Well,
the budget is the overall expense of the project, can come from several sources. One of them, a CPC grant, but many other sources.
Yeah, it's a confusing statement.
Right, it has been confusing in the past.
Because, and there's a column for stipend request, and then professional services, and then total of CPC funds requested, and then other funding sources, and then total cost. So
yeah,
what is professional services? What is going on here?
Professional services would be architectural and engineering services.
Why are they different than any other expenses?
Well, I think it was just to sort of make that distinction. I would think there's a distinction between construction costs or hard costs and soft costs.
Right. Okay, so so they're all subsets of expenditures. Yeah.
There's a subset that together those things would add up to the total project cost.
Right.
Okay, so then would your proposal be to leave the grid exactly as is and just get it to be a fillable thing, which is what we're trying to get it to be?
Yeah, I think
it doesn't need to be an attached budget, and maybe we can just get them to fill in these numbers on the form.
Yeah, it's interesting. I could send you an example of what I've just done with the city of Boston. That may be if I could get it up on the screen right now, I could show it to you.
Yeah, once you do that, you can.
Does she have the right to share?
I don't know. We'll find out when she tries.
Okay. You may have to add her.
And then Tony can tell me how to do it if I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I can't sort of see how to get to the full screen.
I think you have to make her a host or something.
All right, so let's see.
Add her.
Let me see what this is. Reactions, disable, share sound, no. Participants. Invite, no. New share, remote control, apps.
I
no.
think there's an option.
It's not obvious here how to do this. Go ahead.
Paul, I think there's an option that says allow multiple participants to share.
Yeah, I know there is. I just don't know where it is. Correct.
If you
and I've just lost my
where the share button is.
Yeah. Well,
where
I'll
the
try
share button is, there's a little arrow there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
In like the corner of that.
Okay,
square.
multiple participants can share simultaneously. How's that?
Yep.
Does that sound
There
good?
you go.
All right, I clicked it.
Okay, does that mean I can,
You'll try it and see.
So
See
now
what
I can go on to share screen? Okay, well.
See what happens. Yep, there you go.
Well, yeah, but now I'm trying to get into my system.
Oh, okay.
You see that?
It looks like
No,
your
we're
email.
seeing your email.
We see your email. move the file over wherever the email is, and we'll see it. Open the file somewhere and then drag it over the email, and we'll see it.
Is that what I'm actually such a doofus on this? I've got it on top of my email.
Oh, really? So it's covering.
You might only be sharing. Stop sharing and then reshare, and then just choose the first option for sharing. You're probably just sharing like one screen.
Yeah, right. So stop the share.
So stop sharing, stop share, and then
put
share
the file
again.
on there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. You might want to make it bigger. It's quite small.
Okay. So
there you go. Good.
Here's how this one starts. So it starts with sources of income. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And then goes down to uses and expenses. So the first category is soft costs. And then you'll see a column that says CPA grants request, and then budget or other project costs, and then total project costs. And this particular format is geared towards construction projects or historic preservation projects versus, land acquisition and that kind of thing. But and then, so then you sort of do your line items where you're describing your project, you're describing whether it's out of the CPA or the other, and then it totals at the far end. And that may be clear. So this is really geared for a 1-year project versus this other chart that we had been looking at that was trying to anticipate a multiple-year project. I think that we tend to see 1-year projects. And so let's make this simpler for people.
I think there were 2 options where one was if you're only doing a 1-year project, you fit on one graph, and then if you had more than that, there was another choice you could use to separate it out into the different years. People had the option of either.
Yep, I see what you're saying.
Well, so the question is still on the table. Do we want to make any changes to the existing little budget chart that we were having people fill in on the original application? And if no, are we okay with just putting those fields into the existing online form and then not having people attach a budget? Just having them fill it in online.
I'm fine with just having the chart online. Let's hear from others on the committee.
I think it would, if we asked people to use the same format, then we could understand it better and compare them better.
Yep. Okay. I'm fine with that. I mean, it's just, we're gonna, what we're trying to do is come up with a list to ask Tony's development team. And I don't think it's gonna be a heavy list. It might take them a couple of hours to make these changes. And if, just checking with us to make sure it's done, that, that it's compiled right. So Tony, we just need to make sure that's gonna be okay with you.
Yeah, whenever we have it put together, I will run it by them and see what it will take or if it'll cost anything, and I'll just follow up with you guys.
Okay. Do they have like a retainer contract where they perform X amount of work per month on the website?
Yes, but if you have to go to like a developer for a certain that's outside of that scope, then it might come with extra cost, but it might only be like $100 or $200, so nothing too bad.
Yeah, it's also not a really specifically complicated ask. You're basically modifying the existing form. I mean, it's still work. I don't want to minimize it, but they still have to do it.
Right, but that
Okay.
first column that says stipend request, I think that that label needs to be changed. If we're using the same table, that label needs to change.
So what should we change that stipend request to?
I think it should be grant request.
And should it still say like guideline number 3?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Remove guideline 3.
Lynn, in the guidelines, isn't the stipend money that people can get to assist them in coming up with an accurate estimate?
I have, I really don't know what this is anymore. Thank you. Is that what
Right.
it's supposed to be?
I'm gonna
I
look
think
it up
so.
because there was a specific thing for it. Guideline number 3.
We'd have to actually look at the guidelines,
Stipend,
Austin, to tell us.
exactly. Yeah, and I actually had it, I had a redlined box saying, what does stipends mean in this context? Stipends for project cost estimating for major projects may be requested to assist petitioners in obtaining informed cost estimate for their grant preparation. Contact Tony Barletta for assistance in this regard.
Right. So this
Also, in
is not
formulating
working.
yeah.
It's not working because people aren't asking for the money. The stipend should be given in advance of doing the grant application. So we're going to have to sort of rethink that whole thing.
So that's the stipend for grant development.
That's what that is. Thank you, Austin.
That was Paul.
Or Paul. No, I bet
So,
Austin brought it up
stipend
earlier.
request,
Oh, okay, good.
yeah, stipend request, professional services, total of CPC funds requested, total of CP. So professional services could be, it's not just architecture and engineering, it's really like what it's going to cost to get the people to do the work, your contractors, whatever the job is. Like in the
So
case
no,
of scanning,
that's the problem with this. That isn't what it is. Professional services would be architectural and engineering fees. So, so a way of doing this is actually what I was trying to show you on this other form.
I like yours better. Yeah.
I think this is a pretty good form, quite honestly.
Right. It's understandable.
Why don't we use something like this?
Okay.
And drop that other
that might
one.
be too Yep, that might be too complicated to put into an online form, but we could have it available as an Excel download that people could fill out and then upload. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's how this one works. But I can send you this Excel form and it can be adapted.
Yep. Why don't you send me the Excel? I will take a look at it and may enlist Nancy to walk through it with me if that's okay.
Sure.
And then we can maybe make a proposal for the next meeting, or and circulate it beforehand. And I think the goal would be to have it available as a download. That's what people have to fill out. Download this Excel sheet, fill it out to the best of your ability, and upload it at the end. Or upload it here. This is the format that we want everybody to follow.
By uploaded, do you mean enter directly? Ellen, by upload,
no, I mean attach as a file with the application that they fill out online.
That's exactly
so at the bottom of the form,
right.
Yeah, there's an attached files at the end. And I was thinking, right here on the cost question, we could have the button there saying, attach your budget here, use the form, use the Excel form, and download this Excel form, fill it out, and upload it here. That's what I'm thinking.
When do we have to have this ready by?
Well, that's what I'm a little troubled by. Because it hasn't been posted yet, quite honestly. But we were talking about a meeting on December 13th. which is next, which is coming up.
Right. It's a lot to get them to do. I'd say we just need to get this Excel form. This Excel thing has to be in the right format. That's all. Can we do that by email?
I would hope so.
Okay.
I mean, I have. If that's objectionable to the committee, then I would simply take the chart that we've got and just change the labels.
Yep.
That would be easier for this year.
Okay, well then
In
let's.
the future, we can be more complex with it.
Okay.
Okay, so for this, I'm fine with that too. Again, I understand the timing is potentially an issue. So we're going to change stipend. No, we're going to leave stipend request because stipend, and there is a guideline for stipend request. So we really leave it exactly as it is.
Okay.
And just take those chart fields and
we have to refer them to guideline 3 though, because so they understand what it is about, even though no one reads it.
Yep. Right. Exactly. So it is in there. All right. Can you stop sharing and can we go back to Paul's screen to continue with the red lines of the form?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen here because my control bar has disappeared.
Okay.
So I don't know where we are. Hide video? No, I don't want that.
Let me just share my screen. Is that okay?
Oh, by all means.
All right. So here we're looking at my screen and here's the estimated cost. And I was thinking, we're not going to do this anymore, right? We're going to just we're going to fill in the forms. Mm-hmm. Other funding sources, et cetera. So this is all that. Question instead of at the end, right? So here I was saying for acquisition projects, attach appraisals and agreements if available. And I was asking if we could have an attached files here. I'm trying to make it easier for people to attach the files as they're going through. Mm-hmm. So just asking if we can get an attached file right here for acquisition projects. Coordination, the only thing here, the only real issue here is it looks like I redlined it, but I didn't because I was copying and pasting. So I've just added numbers here. I added 9 for coordination, 10 for previous town meeting, 11 for project priority. And
these numbers are exactly what was in the old
that's right.
application.
So it looks like red lines, but it was just because I was copying and pasting. We did have a couple of proposed additions to the form that we wanted to run by you. Wanted to just give people an opportunity to, say anything else that they didn't have an opportunity to say. So it's really like an anything else question. If there's anything else that you believe would be useful for the CPC to know when reviewing your application, please let us know below, and we'd have a text box. And then, attach any additional supporting materials and a final attach files button here. So just giving people an opportunity to give supplemental narrative or PDFs that they'd like us to see, or, Word or Excel or anything like that. Okay. So we proposed those last 2 things as an addition to the application, and put it to the committee to decide if they like that.
Okay. Other comments?
So do we need any clarifying information to explain to applicants what the difference is between a stipend and the project?
So
and shouldn't they just be?
That's on the guidelines, we hope.
Okay.
That's in the guidelines.
Yeah, okay. But even experienced grant applicants, like our very experienced librarian Sharon Hawks, was filling out the form incorrectly on the example I just looked at.
Right.
I,
So is it under glossary that it's not explained right, or people just aren't reading it?
I think it is as both Paul and Austin have pointed out. If you read the guidelines, and I've just got them in my hand, you look at number 3, and it says, "Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You can get help, and that's what the stipend is about." But it doesn't make sense that the stipend would be included in the grant application.
That's
all.
right.
That's the
That's
problem.
right. So it should be a separate item.
Or it wouldn't be in the application. If you are actually reading this now and you think,
Yeah.
oh, I need help preparing my grant application,
Right.
I'm going to reach out and see if I can get a stipend to help do that. And I'm going to do that now because this application is due in 2 months.
Right.
It
Exactly.
shouldn't be part of the application. It's a separate pot.
So but on the other hand, on the other end of that request for a stipend, and I don't know if it's going to be us or Tony, to tell you the truth, but whoever it is going to want to know whether this is a realistic thing or just a pipe dream or wasted money, or there's no way it could qualify for CPC support. So
Yeah,
you
and
need
who
a
makes the
modicum of
decision
information to be able to make that decision, don't you think?
And where
in
does
the
that
past-
stipend money come from?
Well, we have a budget.
We have it. It's administrative funds, Ellen.
Okay.
It's a line in our budget.
Tony's trying to say something.
I was just saying that in the past, it's happened kind of organically in some of your meetings, and the suggestion has been to reach out, make the request, and then I've forwarded it to Lynn, and then I think the committee has voted on whether to use some of your admin budget towards those costs.
Right.
So we could just follow that process.
Right. And the only recent example I can think of, Tony, is the acoustical work at the town hall.
Yes. Yes.
That's the only example that really comes to mind in the several years that we've had this. And we created this in part because we wanted actually reasonable cost estimates.
While I have you, and I know you guys have a quick meeting, so maybe if it could just be, jotted down and something to talk about at the next meeting, but whether it be a part of your review process of applications, or if you think it should be included on the application, whether it be a guideline or a question, is something related to procurement. Sometimes, whether the application is going to be for a project on town property and it's beyond just engineering, it may, and depending on the type of project and the cost, it could trigger procurement. And I think it would be helpful to have that be somewhere part of the conversation so that applicants, that are coming to you that are not the town, are aware that that might be an issue, in the future. So just throw a pin in it for now, just something to think about. And I know you guys have a quick meeting tonight, so I just wanted to mention it.
I think if you gave us the language that you would want us to include, a place for it could be right here on the grant guidelines as number 7 after 4 departments or committees that have multiple project requests. You could just say number 7, applicants should be advised that certain projects may trigger procurement laws that, require or require, just whatever the language is, Tony,
right.
Give it to us and we'll put it in here.
Yeah. And may even, I got to double check with legal, but it may even trigger prevailing wage cost requirements. So, which would drastically increase an estimate on a project cost. So it's something that might make sense to have it on the front end, but yeah, I'll draft something and send it over to you guys.
I mean, it seems, it's not my decision for it to be included, but if we were to include it, this is a good spot, I think.
The other topic that we had briefly discussed at our last meeting, and Ellen and I were talking about, was when grants had to be started. You know, like we sort of said, well, you should start your grant by 2 years, or otherwise tell us why it can't be started. And then we were also wondering whether there should be a requirement, because we don't know how you know, Lynn, that the grant's been completed. Like, should there be a requirement for a report at the end of their project?
Mm-hmm. I think it was a little bit different. I think I was suggesting that work be completed in a 2-year time frame, not to start it.
Okay, we were wondering, is that reasonable? I mean, I guess if they give us a 1-year project, then it is reasonable.
But I'm simply going to again reflect on my experience in other communities where 2 years has been given as the time frame. You can get extensions on it, but I think there is a reasonable point here that you're tying up money
right
that otherwise could be working for, you know, community projects. And then I think we did say that there should be a simple completion report.
Okay.
How do I know when a project is completed? Because I work with Allison, and before that, you know, Deb Waters at Town Hall tracking expenses. Okay. And so, I also, it's a small enough town that we can go around and look at things too. Right. So we do that.
Right. But so then we would have to, if we all agree about that, we would have to add it to the guidelines so people understand that.
That's right. And that
right. And so,
I'm looking, yeah.
Go ahead, Lynn, I'm sorry.
No, so that's what we talked about last time, is adding to the guidelines that you have a 2-year window for your project once it's been approved by the town meeting. And that there would be a letter agreement, and that we would also ask for a simple narrative completion report.
Yeah, and so if you just look back at my screen, these were the final questions that were coming up as Nancy and I were wrapping up. Is, do we want to start or end date for the funds to be stated in the grant guidelines? End date, you know, from my perspective, coming from the nonprofit world of financial management, end date is more common, right? Start date, we don't care. Our funders don't care when we start generally. They just care that we use the money by the time we say we're going to use the money. Otherwise, we can't apply for more. And multi-year grants, so we were thinking multi-year grants would have an end date, of course, after their final year, which is completely intuitive. Do we want reports from applicants when they're done? We were saying no to interim reports,
right?
Because that's a lot of administrative management, but final reports, you know, we weren't sure how we currently know when a project is complete and what would we want to know. So we would need to come up with some simple questions to give people the structure for this final narrative. Additional questions that we had, what happened to final report? So if we require a final report, what happens if they're not submitted, right? or you know, once we have this requirement in place, what do we have to decide what happens if people don't comply? And so that's just a question for discussion. And then, of course, the last thing we actually thought might have been useful as we were thinking of this gigantic spreadsheet that you manage, Lynn. We're thinking moving forward, maybe it makes sense to add grant numbers to all of our grants that we give. And that way, there's just some way of easily referencing them in the future. We don't think we should go back and do them retroactively, because that seems like wasted time. But maybe moving forward, we just come up with a naming scheme like Housing 2023-1 or Housing and Open Space 2023-2, as you see on my screen. We just come up with a scheme that we all decide works, and maybe it could be helpful. We brought that up as a, hello, here's my daughter.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, I think. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that it gets that number from the get-go, and the number stays, we might think about adding a letter for substantial resubmissions or changes. But other than that, I think a number is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have another question that Ellen had just alluded to, which is, do you have to finish your grant? And should we make this clear? You have to finish the grant before you can apply for more money for that similar same project.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does make sense. I mean, there could be exceptions. You could say there has to be substantial progress. You know, maybe you're not finished. I'm thinking like playgrounds, for example. You might be in the middle of an installation schedule, for example, and you have a plan, and you know, if you don't apply for the money now, you're going to miss town meeting, you know, and then it's another year and a half before you can deal with it again. So I think that it's fair to, I mean, it's fair for us to ask that projects be completed, but it's also reasonable to say, you know, you have to show some significant progress, and that can be interpreted. And that's my opinion. I know when we apply for grants with one foundation, you know, we can't apply for another one until we're done with the first one. It's a little bit different in this case.
Yes, and I think the playground example is a good one because we had, you know, exactly that for Little Nahant. You know, I think what we're talking about are guidelines. These are not, you know, rules. Your hand is going to be cut off.
Right.
But this is trying to make our process more efficient and more responsive, quite honestly, to community needs.
So now that we have the answers to those questions, maybe Ellen and I could just incorporate them into this part of the document, and then when we get the other stuff from Tony, and then circulate it among us for speed of getting this done.
I think that would be true. That would be good.
Yeah, I had gone ahead and I had extracted all of the guidelines into one document, which I attached for everybody. And I made some red lines. You know, I couldn't redline it because it's a PDF, so I did text boxes. And here, you know, so you can see, I'm saying, if we all agree, can we say that all submissions must be submitted through the town website, whatever the page name is, if we're all in agreement with that. Each project request must be submitted on the form. I think we can remove this.
Yep.
I think we can remove this one and that whole one thing. I think we have the answer to stipend here. The rest is guidelines. I might even have the Word document for this somewhere. Oh, I did have one more question. Is this page needed? Can we get rid of this?
We have not used it. We've not used it, so why not?
And now we're not even taking paper anymore. So, you know, we've never used it. And even when I looked at the binders that we used to get a few years back, we still didn't use them.
No.
Ellen,
I think you.
Sorry. If we're through this, Ellen, if you could scroll up to number 10, there isn't a reference to timelines there.
There is.
Not in the definitions there, further up.
Oh, in the guidelines. Yeah. How about that?
So that's a year and a half for the latest start and 3 years.
But do we care about the start dates? Like we were saying, should we just have the completion dates?
Again, this is, that language is sufficiently confusing.
Right.
It really is. It's not nice at all.
I can tell you who drafted that, but you wouldn't want to know.
We can
Better.
fix that. We can work on that.
Yeah, if we're allowed to fix it, we can fix it.
You can. And I won't tell him.
Okay, Nancy. It does feel
That
like
was
a lawyer
that was
wrote it.
drafted by a lawyer. And in case anyone
Yeah.
notices,
Who could that be?
I don't know who that would be.
It does feel sufficiently legal.
Mhm.
Okay, so Nancy and Ellen can take that on.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you. You are a good reader.
Yeah, like really, I didn't even
You
know
are a really good reader.
kind of embarrassing.
Oh
Wait, is
well.
he still on the? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there he is. Okay. So I guess the next steps are us to. I guess we should finalize our recommendations and then get them over to Tony.
Yep.
And
No.
and Nancy and Ellen need to meet to go through. Nancy, do you think we should meet again before we do that?
We should have as much information as we can when we meet. But also once we make our recommendations, the committee has to review it before we send it to Tony, don't you think? Everyone has to make sure, and Eagle Eyes Austin has to make sure that.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, we do need a little bit more time, but I think we could, if we could find time to meet, maybe we could do it again on Sunday.
Yeah, well, let's talk offline.
So because,
Okay.
all right, so this goes to the schedule that we had set up a week ago or so. And that is that we were going to have a public meeting on the 13th.
Right.
That has not been formally posted or notified.
No.
But we can't go too much later.
Right.
And still
No.
meet our overall schedule, which is to get things to the end, to the town warrant by March 1st.
Right.
So if we could meet this weekend, we could send it out to the committee in the following week. And but that means that Tony has to get the developers to be able to work on it.
So Ellen and Nancy, how much time do you think the developers would have to how complicated is it going to be to make these adjustments? Seems to me they're emendations, not changes.
Yeah, they're really not bad. I don't want to speak for them because I don't know what platform they built on, but they have the form already. So they're not a lot of changes. I do think it's just a couple of hours for them to do. And we just also need to ask them how we can get them compiled in a certain way. So they do need to do some work, but I don't think it's unreasonable amount of work.
So,
I've built forms for websites myself.
I know you have. That's why I asked.
Right? No, yeah, it's not that bad.
So if you could do that, and we can circulate this amongst the committee, I think that we can do this. We're not asking for a vote on this. We're simply asking it to circulate amongst the committee. And if there's any sort of significant notes, they would come to you, and then we would see if we have to make a change. I just don't want to actually hold this up from getting into the website and being able to have our applicants be able to see it before we have the public meeting.
So like if worst comes to worst and we just somehow it can't get changed, then we just leave everything the way it is and change the dates. And I mean, because we have to get it out to the people.
That's right. That's the fallback.
We'll try to make it work.
That would be great. And we certainly appreciate your careful scrutiny of this. And Austin, your excellent proofreading.
Kind of embarrassing that the committee didn't know what was in the guidelines.
I know, really. take a look at the
complaining
guidelines
about
and those
applicants,
dates.
but no, I know. I haven't read them since in several years. I haven't looked at them.
Yeah.
I just
So
formatted them.
yeah. All right. So I think we can still say let's move forward up with the meeting on the 13th. I will work with Kristen tomorrow to make sure the notices go out. And, you know, I think we'll say that the to applicants that it will be available online. I'll check with Tony. Tony, are you still on the call?
Yep, I'm still here.
So Tony, I don't know if you've been able to hear this, but we're thinking that we'll get some additional sort of edits done on Sunday and then get them in circulation. Do you have a sense of how quickly your web person could adapt the form and get it onto the town website? Do you have a sense of that?
I really don't, because I really don't. I can't. It's hard to put. It typically doesn't take them very long to do stuff for us, but you know, it all depends on how busy they are at the time. So, and what you're asking them to do. So, you know, the sooner the better, but I don't think it's like you got to get it to them tomorrow. So, you know, unfortunately that's a non-answer, but.
Okay. I'm just trying to think about what we can say to applicants is that the form is available. It's available on the website now. It's just going to be slightly adapted. So.
Right.
Okay.
Because what we also, the other thing, Lynn, is the part of the reason that we're recommending going to the online form is we looked at the last year's forms, and it looks to us like everybody filled out the PDF. And it doesn't look like we got really online entries. And so we kind of want one or the other. It seemed like, and it really did feel like the existing form in the PDF was pretty kludgy and jumped all over the place.
Yeah,
with the guidelines and the application and the appendix. And it just didn't seem as streamlined as it could be. So even though we made it a fillable form and we made changes over the past few years, you know, Nancy and I were just like, let's just go online. Let's just make the whole thing required online. It's not an unreasonable request anymore.
Okay.
Ellen, I have a basic question. Does the size of the little boxes where you fill in the information online bear any relationship to the size of the printout that we can see?
That is a good question.
The little text boxes are
question.
very constraining. Why should they be only 40% of the width of the page? It should be the whole page width.
Right. Well, so we can tell the website person how many characters to allow and what type of box it is, for example. So for a narrative, we could say, you know, you can allow 3 paragraphs. And the question is just going to be, you know, what does it look like when we get it? So how do they export it to something?
I don't think I would give them any limitation. What difference does it make to us how long it is? Right? Nobody's going to want to write more than they need. I mean, there may be a few
paragraphs anyway. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is these boxes have a scroll down on the right hand side. That's to make it reasonable to fill it out. But when it prints out, you should not have to do any scrolling. It should show the entire text. I've run into that several times with homemade things like this.
Yes, and so I think the instructions are going to be export all the text, right, as a, you know, and don't constrain it in a box.
Yeah.
Maybe if it, and I'll try and I'll put instructions on at the top of the form, and if they have any questions, they could contact me as well to work through any technical questions they have, if that's okay with Tony and the team.
Makes sense to me. Okay.
I have to leave, excuse me, for another meeting.
Yes, I was looking at your time, Nancy. I know we're having this meeting, so you can go on to another meeting. But I think we have come to the end of an honorable end here. And I want to say I appreciate everyone's participation. And let's sort of look to the next set of iterations from your work on Sunday. If you can get that in circulation to everyone, then we'll sort of see if we can sort of draw a circle around this. And
Great.
then I'll
Great.
follow through with Kristen tomorrow to get the
thank you,
notices
Lynn.
out.
I can't wait to read about this in the item. It's going to be such an exciting article.
I know, it is.
Go
Okay.
for it, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Excuse me. Hi, I have a few just some questions about its background information. It just is it for every resident who has an idea to apply for the grant application?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and its purpose is for historic preservation and community housing and recreation, that kind.
And
That's
open
right.
space.
In
Correct.
open space, the three
And
categories.
open space.
Right.
Okay. Is there any limit, like money wise? Is there any limit on it?
I don't think so, Lynn. I think it's
No.
just limited by our budget.
Well,
Okay.
our
Money is
funding
not
capacity,
considered-
but
Right, the funds that have not already been committed.
And I've seen that during meeting, your the income is specifically let me find it. It's just from some grant, like Boston CPC 2023, that kind of income, right?
no. That was an example, Sylvia, of a grant form. So
Oh.
So actually, I would refer you. I'd love to refer you to the town report from or the annual town meeting from 2022. If you go to the town warrant, you'll see a detailed explanation of community preservation in Nahant. But in general, the amount of money that's available from Nahant is approximately $300,000, $360,000. And that's the annual amount that we have to work with in terms of grant making.
Okay. All right. I think that's all my questions for the background information. And that's going to be after, I think you will have a more complete plan for the until the next meeting. And then that will be online soon, right?
Right. The grant applications, the purpose of today's meeting was to review the grant application itself and make some adaptations or some changes to it. On December 13th, we will be at 7:00. We will be sponsoring a public meeting. So applicants can bring their ideas, bring their questions. We can have an exchange of information. We can hear about community needs that are being explored. And then the grant applications themselves are due on January 27th.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay. You're
Thanks
very
for coming.
welcome. Thank you for coming to the meeting.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye-bye now. So I
Bye,
think
Sylvia.
with that, unless there are some further questions or comments, we should bring this meeting to an end.
I so move.
All right. I have a second on that.
Second.
Ellen wants to sit here all night. Come on, Ellen.
No. Okay. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay. We're good. We're done. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Good night.
All right,
Good
I'm
night
ending
now.
it for you all.
Bye.